Hello and welcome to Idea TV News Update. I am Chidera Okere. We begin with the headlines. Police corporal and bus conductor sentenced to death for 2015 kidnap. Gabon and the Republic of Congo to end roaming charges from June 30, 2026. Kenya Central Bank moves to tighten fintech rules. MTN transfers 400 million CFA in subscriber deposits to state fund away from Africa. Gates addresses EPSTEIN ties in foundation staff meeting. In business, World Bank plans $6 billion support package for Mozambique in health. NIMR sounds alarm on rising drug-resistant infection in Nigeria. And in sport, CHELLE features packs fresh scrutiny of NFF. Now the news in full. An Akwa Ibom State High Court in Uyo has sentenced a police corporal and a bus conductor to death by hanging for the 2015 kidnap of a secondary school vice principal in Okanafong local government area. The court on Wednesday convicted police corporal Mbazigwe Chinedu Friday and Isaac Eddy Ndeso of conspiracy, kidnapping and unlawful possession of firearms. The victim, Elder Akara Johnson Mendai, was adopted on July 5, 2015 while returning from church with his family. A ransom of 50 million was demanded, but 200,000 naira was later paid before his release. In his judgment, Justice Nsemake Daniel said the prosecution proved its case beyond reasonable doubt, describing it as unacceptable that the trial lasted 10 years from 2016 to 2026. The court sentenced both men to death by hanging alongside prison terms of 5 years for conspiracy and 7 years for unlawful possession of firearms. Moving on, Gabon and the Democratic Republic of the Congo will scrap cross-border mobile roaming charges from June 30, 2026. The arrangement was signed Wednesday on the sidelines of the 10th session of the Central African Telecommunications Regulators Conference in Kinshasa. The deal will allow users traveling between both countries to make calls, send them SMS, and access the internet at local or significantly reduced rates without changing SIM cards. Authorities says the move will cut communication costs for millions of travelers and businesses. Regulators says the agreement supports regional trade, mobile financial services, and small business connectivity. It also marks a step towards harmonized telecom policies and deeper digital integration across Central Africa. In another news, the Central Bank of Kenya is reviewing its core banking laws to strengthen oversight of fintech and digital financial services. The 8-month reform program aims to modernize the legal framework and clarify how fintech firms are licensed and supervised. The regulator says existing legislation was designed for traditional banks and does not fully address mobile payments, digital lending, and online banking platforms. Proposed changes include clearer licensing categories, stronger supervisory powers, and tighter rules on cybersecurity and consumer protection. Kenya remains one of Africa's top fintech investment destinations, attracting over $1 billion in startups funding in 2025. Authorities say clearer regulation will protect consumers, support innovation, and reinforce Nairobi's ambition to become a lending continental financial hub. MTN Cameroon has transferred more than 400 million CFAs in subscriber security deposits to the National Deposit and Consignment Fund under a new agreement signed today, Wednesday, February 25. The fund represents guarantees collected from customers to cover unpaid bills or unreturned equipment. Under Cameroon's law, such deposits must be placed with the state's depository to ensure secure management, and transparency. The transfer does not constitute revenue, as the sum remains unrefundable at the end of contract, subject to the deduction where applicable. Official says the move strengthens oversight, improves traceability, and separates operating income from customer guarantees. The agreement sets out procedures for collecting, transferring, and refunding deposits, marking a practical step in implementing reforms governing consignment in Cameroon. We now go on a quick break. The news continues when we return.
Machine customers. Machine customers are AI systems that can make autonomous purchasing decisions on behalf of businesses or individuals. These systems analyze data, predict needs, and place orders without human intervention. For example, AI-powered chatbots can reorder supplies for a company when stock runs low. While this trend improves efficiency, it raises concerns about control and accountability over automated processes. As companies explore this concept further, B2B and B2C transactions will increasingly rely on machine customers.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is IDEA TV News Updates. Now the rest of the stories. Away from Africa, Bill Gates has addressed his past relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein during a staff meeting at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, saying he took responsibility for his actions. According to the foundation, Gates spoke candidly at a scheduled town hall responding to questions following the recent release of files by the U.S. Department of Justice. Report says he described spending time with Epstein as a huge mistake, but denied any illicit conduct or involvement with victims. Epstein, who was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, died in prison in 2019. Gates has not been accused of wrongdoing. The foundation says no financial payments were made to Epstein and no partnership was ever established. Moving on to business news now, the World Bank plans to mobilize up to $6 billion for Mozambique over the next 5 years to support macroeconomic stability and recovery. The announcement was made Tuesday, February 24, during a press briefing by the bank's country director. Nearly $3 billion has already been secured, with the remaining $3 billion expected to come from grants and concessional loans. The package aims to strengthen public finances and fund priority investment as the country faces structural economic pressures. The International Monetary Fund estimates Mozambique's public debt as about 90% of GDP in 2025. The World Bank Group also plans to mobilize nearly $4 billion for private sector investment, as growth is projected at 3.5% in 2026. In health news, researchers at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research have raised serious concerns over antimicrobial resistance, AMR, warning that infections in Nigeria hospitals are increasingly resisting even the most potent antibiotics. Surveillance in Lagos State across 4 Sentinel healthcare facilities revealed high levels of resistance to third-generation cephalosporins and antibiotics, typically reserved for severe infections that fail earlier treatment. Dr. Emelda Chukwu explained that misuse and overuse of antibiotics in the community are accelerating the spread of resistant organisms, making some infections increasingly difficult or even impossible to treat. She highlighted that AMR threatens decades of progress since the discovery of antibiotics in the 1920s and could undermine Nigerians' ability to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal of health and well-being. The World Health Organization estimates that bacterial AMR caused 1.27 million deaths worldwide in 2019 and contributed to 4.95 million more. Economic costs are staggering, with projections of up to $1 trillion in healthcare costs by 2050 and GDP losses up to $3.4 trillion annually by 2030 if urgent measures are not taken. NIMR urges coordinated effort to monitor antibiotic use, educate the public on proper usage, and strengthen Nigeria's healthcare system to mitigate these growing threats. And finally, in sports, the future of Super Eagles head coach Eric CHELLE has reignited debate over the Nigerian Football Federation and its history with foreign managers. CHELLE, appointed in January 2025 on a second deal, has about 9 months left in his contract. Despite missing out on the 2026 World Cup and finishing third at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, the Nigerian Football Federation says he is expected to see out his agreement. Reports of a leaked 19-point proposal seeking a $130,000 monthly package and improved logistics have added to tensions, though the Federation insists he is adequately provided for. The situation echoes past disputes with former coaches including Ganot, Jose Pasario, Randy Wardrum, and Thomas Denobai, highlighting recurring concerns over contract salaries and working conditions within Nigerian football. And that's all we have for you on Idea TV News Update. But before we go, here's the recap of the stories. Police corporal and bus conductor sentenced to death for 2015 kidnap. Gabon and DRC to end roaming charges from June 30, 2026. Kenya Central Bank moves to tighten fintech rules. MTN transfers 4 million CFAs in subscribed deposits to state funds. Away from Africa, Gates addresses EPSTEIN ties in foundation staff meeting. And in business, World Bank plans $8 billion support package for Mozambique. In health, NIMR sounds alarm on rising drug-resistant infections in Nigeria. And finally, in sport, CHELLE features packs fresh scrutiny of Nigerian Football Federation. Do not forget to follow us across all social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Chidera Okere. Thank you for watching.